So we've got some other new guests, wonderful guests here at London Climate Action Week 2026, where we're broadcasting from Sustainable Ventures, very close to the House of Commons on the other side of the River Thames. We've got some lovely guests with us here today. There's Johan Falk, who's the CEO and co-founder of the Exponential Roadmap Initiative and lead author of a paper I think that we're going to perhaps hear about. And of course, you're great supporters of We Don't Have Time, and we're great supporters of yours. So we're very happy to see you here, Johan.
Thank you.
And also, we have on the magic of Zoom, Nexi Detti, who's Digitalization and Sustainability Director at the Internet Stiftelsen. That's foundation, isn't it?
That's
Internet
right.
Foundation, the ERI Research and Transformation Fellow, and the Doctor of Technology from Purdue University. And we're here to basically talk about AI, or Earth-orientated AI, or AI that's good for the planet.
That's right.
Fantastic. Okay. So maybe, Johan, you could just kick off a little bit and tell us what is the concept of this segment we're having and why we're doing it.
Yes, we just released a paper on Earth alignment of AI for hyperscalers. So that's my starting point. So the first question is, of course, why is this important now? Well, from a climate perspective, we are in an absolute critical point in time. We are, 5 years behind our carbon law in terms of bending the curve. We might bend the curve now. So it's absolutely critical that we get on the downward trajectory. At the same time, we see the AI explosion, and also that AI is becoming an infrastructure of society. So what does that mean? Well, it means basically that it's so incredibly important that AI is not accelerating the overshoot of 1.5, but we actually ensure that AI is used as a force to bend the curve and drive the transformation.
Okay.
So that is a starting point for this paper.
And it's very interesting because actually, although a lot of people out there, the public, feel that AI is going to somehow be all about taking people's jobs, or that it's creating, more burning of fossil fuels and lots of energy, that even in the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, they've issued a report saying that AI could actually be very good for resolving climate change because of its potential to deal with very complex systems but drive forward action. So this is a very relevant paper and a relevant topic that we've got here right now. Let me go to you, Nexi. From your industry and research perspective, what do you see as most important in this paper?
I think one of the most important things is that Earth aligned means both how we build, but also how we use AI. And what strikes me is that AI is scaling much faster than almost anybody has anticipated. And so the demand is real. The investments are enormous. And the hyperscalers have understandably been focused on building capacity as quickly as possible. So even from my own work, one of the things that stands out, though, inside these organizations is that the signals or the incentives for scaling the AI and the incentives for reducing the environmental impact haven't always been fully aligned. And that is probably because of the rapid adoption of the AI that has made that even more challenging. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've seen some absolute emission increase. And that's one of the reasons why some of those discussion points come up. But so I think it's there's not anymore. This is not anymore of a question. We're never going to go back to a question whether AI will scale. I think we all know it will. The question is how it scales, and this is very important. I think this is the central message of this paper, that the race to scale AI must also become a race to scale the solutions that make the growth sustainable. So if AI is driving, for instance, energy and infrastructure and resource demand, then the hyperscalers also should help accelerate the systems that support that growth. So not just using, for instance, new clean energy, but also adding new clean energy to the grid, advancing some of the work that has been done on circularity, and continuing to work with low carbon infrastructure. Because at the end of the day, for me, Earth alignment is ultimately about aligning growth with responsibility, making sure AI doesn't simply scale, but builds the systems that make a sustainable future possible.
Some have said that it's the area of energy and energy transformation, energy efficiency that could benefit enormously from AI, within economies, within regions as well. Does that chime with you in terms of your thinking?
I think the biggest opportunity is in the energy transformation. I think. And traditionally, if you think about like large companies, they've primarily been consumers of energy. But what makes, for instance, here we're talking about the hyperscalers being aligned with Earth Aligned, and what makes them unique is that they are building also technologies that can help transform the energy systems itself. So if AI can improve renewable forecasting, it can optimize grids, it can coordinate storage, enable, for instance, demand flexibility. And we've seen, the creation of energy communities here in Sweden, and it can help manage these increasingly complex energy systems. And so the real opportunity is not really that hyperscalers consume and add clean energy capacity, which is necessary, but it is that they create also technologies that can help society use energy more effectively. And it doesn't mean that efficiency still doesn't matter. Like for the data centers and the chipsets, we need more efficient chips. We need more efficient models and infrastructure. But we also need to be careful not to rely solely on efficiency metrics, because efficiency gains can sometimes mask the growing absolute demand. But what I can say is that what excites me, I guess, is the possibility that AI become part of the solution to its own challenge, so to speak, helping create a cleaner, perhaps more resilient, and even more efficient energy systems while it continues to scale.
Mm-hmm. I've got one last question for you here, Nexi. This is like a third point. The accelerating of gigaton climate solutions. These must be climate solutions that give you a big hit in terms of reducing the risks of climate change. What are the gaps and the opportunities in your view from this AI?
Through my work, I actually work with this concept called twin transition, which is the idea of the integration of the digital and the green transformation. And over the last couple of years, we have identified hundreds of digital solutions which have measurable climate positive effects, and considering or adding into that equation even the rebound effects. And what is striking is that many of these solutions already exists out there. They are helping reduce emissions across sectors, within transport, within construction, resource management, you name it. And in many cases, recent advances, for instance, in AI, especially with the LLMs, have made these solutions, I would say, even technically and economically viable in ways that simply wasn't possible a few years ago. And when I think about if there is, the gap between opportunities and so on, I don't think the gap is necessarily the innovation. The gap is actually rather scale, because most of these solutions remain limited to one or a handful of implementation. And the challenge is how can we move them from successful pilots to adoption across, for instance, I work with cities, for instance, with industries and the entire sectors. And hyperscalers have actually, or can play an important role in here, because they not only do they have the platforms, the cloud platforms, the AI platforms, the compute, but they also have the means to reach and to help successful climate solutions scale much faster than they do today. And there is another point that needs to be made here, because some of these solutions are built on expertise and knowledge, industry knowledge. And if they fail to scale, we risk losing not only promising companies, but also climate innovations that could deliver meaningful impact. And for me, that's where the opportunity lies. Like, the discussion about this like gigaton scale impact, and it is somehow often circles around like these future breakthroughs. But I think there is an equal opportunity in helping proven solutions that are already out there to scale at the speed that the climate transition requires.
Good. Johan, let's turn back to you. So are hyperscalers moving already in this direction, and where do you see signs of progress, and where are the critical gaps from your point of view?
Yeah, and thanks for that, Nexi, and all the examples. Just first to recap on the three things we say in the paper, which connects to what Nexi talked about. It's basically three requirements. Three requirements. The first one is this radical acceleration of clean energy beyond your own clean energy need. Mm-hmm. So that is really essential, and it's also about accelerating the next generation clean energy technologies, because the hyperscalers have that capacity. Mm-hmm. But it's also the materials in the data centers, of course. They can take an incredibly important role there. So that's number one. Not consuming the existing renewable energy, so far behind. The second thing is to dramatically drive efficiency across the whole stack. Because what is happening now is we had a trajectory, like a carbon law for this industry, mm-hmm. and now we will have a bump in the curve, which is unavoidable due to our AI. It's incredibly important to show now that we're coming down on a down curve, mm-hmm. we can follow that. Mm-hmm. Related to that is also to provide transparently information about footprint. So purchasers, customers, and buyers can take decisions on which type of services to use. That's number two. The third one is related to what we talked about, the gigaton solutions. We have 54 gigaton or something like that mm-hmm. of emissions in the world. And there is a tremendous opportunity to apply AI to accelerate these solutions, shifting the curves to the left, rather than most of the focus going to driving overshoot and fossil solutions. Mm-hmm. So these are the three things. Mm.
Yes.
And coming back to your question, that was a long response, yep. A little bit derailed by purpose. Are they acting? Answer is yes. Is it sufficient? No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, there are a lot of investments, particularly in the first point in terms of renewable energy. Mm. But from our perspective, we need to ensure that this is incredibly accelerated. And for all the hyperscalers, there are some which are more on the front line, some are less on the front line. Mm-hmm. So we intend to push this together with the ecosystem. And it's not an anti-AI statement. It's rather to apply AI in a positive way, but we need to put even more positive pressure on these companies because they have so important role.
Yeah. Super. All right. Well, we've run out of time.
Yes.
Johan, thank you very much indeed. Good for putting that on the table, and the potential, of stepped up action using AI with these major hyperscaling companies. It's an interesting topic, and thank you to Nexi, of course, coming in from presumably the United States of America. No, where? Stockholm. I can't believe it. I saw Purdue University. I thought it must be the States. No? Okay, fine. I've learned something today. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
So we're very happy to have with us Charlie Wilson. He's a professor of energy and climate change at the University of Oxford. Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you.
Now, your research shows that digitalization can be a double-edged sword, and perhaps in a sense what's missed is that everyone focuses on emissions from data centers and this kind of thing, rather than looking at the whole system. So could you sort of put that into layperson's terms, why we need to actually think a bit bigger than we do sometimes?
Yes, for sure. So when you think about digital and AI's impacts on energy and climate, the focus of late has been very squarely on compute in data centers. So this is around 1.5 to 2% of global electricity and higher in some jurisdictions with high data center concentrations. But when you go up a level from compute and think about all the way in which digital and AI is used throughout the economy and society, it generally has what it does is it makes activities or tasks easier, cheaper, have less friction, more convenient, and so on. So this is good for efficiency. This helps drive energy and emissions down, but it also induces demand or a rebound effect by which we want to do more of the activity that's become cheaper, easier, and quicker. So if you think about that in our energy using sectors of the economy, buildings, transport, and industry, AI and digital applications can help efficiencies, but can also drive demand up. If you think about digital and AI in our electricity system, in our energy transitions, it can help integrate renewables and storage and electric vehicles, but it can also magnify issues of congestion and blockages and so on. So basically both good and bad. In a recent study where we've tried to quantify these out to 2050 at a global scale, we find that these kind of good and bad application level impacts are 5 times larger in magnitude than the data center impacts. So this is why we emphasize really focusing on what AI is used for, as well as the compute requirements for AI.
I see. Okay, that's very interesting. So there's a kind of absolute fascination with data centers when there's a lot more going on around the AI and what it can do both in a positive and a negative way. And we need to be prepared for all those possibilities.
Yes.
Okay. Give us in maybe one sentence, that's a bit unfair, maybe 2 or 3 sentences. What do you think needs to happen rapidly over the next, say, 12 months to actually change the dynamics into the most positive it can be for our economies, our society, and our climate?
3 sentences. So first, I think AI hyperscalers in particular need to internalize what their compute capacity is being used for. Secondly, they then need to channel those uses towards the really beneficial applications for climate. So accelerated innovation in low carbon technologies, integration of renewables onto electricity systems, and so on. And then third, they need to guard against their compute being used for AI applications that will drive emissions up. That could be in the fossil fuel sector, or it could be through enormous rebound in our mobility and industry.
Okay, super, Charlie. We're just going to wrap up here now then with Johan Falk. Yeah, does this echo what Charlie's saying to your perspectives, Johan?
Absolutely aligned. AI per se, it's important in terms of the clean energy acceleration, but it's even more important to accelerate the services which drives transformation forward. And from our perspective, we see strong opportunity that the hyperscalers should build these things into their transition plans within a year, basically, 3 points we talked about, and show performance both in the clean energy transformation, secondly, in bending the curve downwards, and primarily how they accelerating climate solutions.
Just say one thing. I was thinking that these hyperscalers, these are companies, right?
Right.
Yeah. I suppose many of them have science-based targets, so they're going to have to incorporate what's going on with AI into those. Is that possible?
That is right. But I would say so far, when we set science-aligned targets and science-based targets, they primarily focusing on the emission scope, what we call scope 1, 2, 3 emissions. And what is even more important is actually what we enable.
Yeah.
So that is a difference.
Yeah.
So it's not sufficient with just science-aligned targets
Right.
and transition plans. We
Okay.
need to go far beyond that.
Right. That's also interesting. Okay,
Yes.
let's pause those thoughts and maybe we can dig a bit deeper into them when we next all meet again.
Yes.
Probably in Turkey or New York Climate Week, who knows, one of those places. Okay, very interesting topic. Thank you very much indeed, everybody that was on the show. And we move on now to our next segment.